Howdy heretics, and welcome to the dark side, because today we're going to talk about Jehovah Witness apostasy for new beginners. If this is your first time you click on JW apostasy, good for you. But you will soon notice that Jehovah Witness apostasy is not the same as Mormon apostasy, and Mormon apostasy is not the same as Catholic apostasy, and Catholic apostasy is not the same as Buddhist apostasy. All religions have apostasy. And it basically just means that you left the religion. Normally, you get born into one religion. And when you grow up and you start investigating, you find out, maybe I don't want to be a Buddhist. So, today we're going to talk about Jehovah Witness apostasy, because it's kind of unique for Jehovah Witnesses. And I have 11 points of the different kind of apostates you might encounter in your journey, and some of them you will like, some of them you will not like, but these are 11 I will recommend. So start with the well-behaved category, people that dress like Jehovah Witnesses and talk like Jehovah Witnesses, except women are allowed to talk. But if you would like that, it's a good new starter apostasy. I would highly recommend XJW Critical Thinker. He makes very good factual programs, and he was actually on Battle in Brooklyn, so he can tell you a lot of inside stories. Another good source of apostasy if you're a new beginner is Wikipedia. You can just check up fact written by normal worldly people, like you can Google you can search for Betsarim and see that Rutherford was actually a good old-fashioned cult leader that lived in a mansion. And you can also find mentioning of Beth Sarim in Watchtower literature, so it's a true story. Or you could check out the destruction of Jerusalem in 587 instead of 607, which means that 1914 would be in 1934. But you can, there's a lot of stuff you can find out. But when we're talking about factual, really factual, if you want to, then we have the nerd apostates. That's the second category, the nerds. The nerds, they go into all details and find out all the facts and all the quotes. And if you really want to see all the facts why Watchtower is wrong, I would highly recommend JW Facts. Look at him, how happy he is here with all the statistics. So if you read, and he has a great webpage also called JW Facts. And then maybe you would feel some light apostasy entertainment that talk about Jehovah Witnesses, but yeah, so this guy, he's called Mentally Diseased, and he makes really surprisingly high quality apostasy, especially since we don't have to pay for this. So go to Mentally Diseased, and then after you've been there, maybe you would like some animated apostasy, some Lego pictures running around in a universe called Dubtown after JW. And I love these videos, so I give the link for all of this in the description. And actually the first time when I was on a protest in London, I was kind of still a witness, so I was a protest, but I had a convention badge for old nostalgic reason. So even if I was an apostate, they would still give me a convention badge. So I wrote name of publisher, I wrote PIMO. And the congregation was Dubtown Congregation. So PIMO, that's something new for you. PIMO means physically in, mentally out. So you're physically in, P, the congregation, but mentally you're out. You know it's all bullshit, so it's the time before you're gonna leave. So that's PIMO. Okay, and then we have the conspiracy apostates that focus on conspiracies. So normally it's that Watchtower is run by the Illuminati, or Watchtower is run by Freemasons, or that it's subliminal pictures in Watchtower. So my favorite is this webpage, of course, that says here that there's a picture of a goat in literature. And it says, as if people put representations of goats in their homes as a decoration. Yeah, why would anyone do that? Why would anyone have a goat in their home as a decoration? The only reason must be that Watchtower is run by the devil. And then the next category of apostates you will find on YouTube is activist. And might I do some self glorification here and say that I feel that I'm an activist. I do a lot of protesting. This is from Stockholm. We were protesting for children's rights, focusing on human rights. And this is Melbourne. And the witnesses were trying to block us so no one could see our sign. It's information control is normally a big part of having a cult. They want to block information, and that's why you're afraid of watching Apostasy. You feel that something's bad gonna happen because they told you something's bad gonna happen. But it's just they want to control information so you can't search for yourself. So that's the activist. And the next category would be cart crashers. So what a cart crasher? Well, a cart crasher is someone that goes up to the JW carts and talk to them, often with a hidden camera. But some people, like myself, I prefer to have it in open and ask them, is it okay that I film? But I don't mean that as a criticism. It's 100% legal to film people on a public place when they grown up, when they choose to stand there and peddle a message. So the most famous cart crushers would be Brick by Brick and John Cedars. We see her, John Cedars, on a cart crash in Disneyland. And John Cedars also made a few other videos that I highly recommend. So what about the angry apostates? Apostates are supposed to be angry and bitter. Well, first I will say there's nothing wrong with being bitter. I was pioneering for 10 years without being paid. So, and based on thing they told me that was actually a lie. So ask anyone, if you work 10 years for free, you're allowed to be a little bitter. But you know, you don't let it take over your life, but there's nothing wrong with being bitter. But angry apostates, well, the problem is there's not so many angry apostates. Most apostates actually love the Jehovah's Witnesses. We feel sorry for them. We used to be like them. So the closest to anger I found, it's Kim and Mikey. And well, Mikey is the angry one sometimes, but get some chocolate and pat on the shoulder and he's good to go. So talking about Kim and Mikey, then we're in the next category. That's ranters, people that just look into the camera and talk without script, often while driving. And my favorite ranter is Heather. I'll leave the link in the description. Then we have really good apostasy is mashups. That means you take a lot of JW propaganda, clip it into small pieces and take it out of context and give it a new message. And you think that it's legal? Yes, it's perfectly legal. It's fair use of copyrighted material. So when I was on Bethel, they would always say that, well, apostates are criminals because they are quoting our literature, and our literature is copyrighted material. Well, that's not how reality works. Watchtower themselves like to quote other people. So imagine if a scientist write a book about something, that's copyrighted material. And Watchtower take a section of that copyrighted material and put into their product. That's perfectly legal. You can do it for criticism or comparison. Society would stop if we couldn't do that. Imagine if Joe Biden were not allowed to quote Donald Trump in a debate. Because my tweets are copyrighted material. Society couldn't work. So, to take copyrighted material and mix it up and everyone understand that it's humor, that's perfectly legal. Hello Watchtower, I'm talking to you. So I'm going to show you a piece of JW brainwashing. He used to do mashups. And this is really good. I also done some mashup myself. But I found it in my channel, so this is JW Broadcasting and a mashup.
After more than 67 years of full-time service, what's the use? I'm tired and weak and poor. I am sick spiritually, morally, and emotionally. And after all, I'm in an unclean state, New York. I am staying home. Remember, the very meaning of the name of our God, Jehovah, is nothing. Perhaps God will punish me a violent death. Nothing in the Bible indicates truth. Never do this preaching work. Quit. God is death.
Jehovah's organization seems to be falling apart, burned, ruined, run over, blown away. Christians, they don't even realize what has happened. Jehovah is the great distractor. He tries to turn our attention away from the true issues of our day. People in general have become more and more distracted by Jehovah's teaching and other non-essential matters. Jehovah's succeeded in misleading so many.
So the reason why a mashup is legal is because it's obvious that it's a joke. So it's the same as if Watchtower would quote someone else, a scientist, they would never misrepresent him. That would be kind of illegal use of copyrighted material. I'm not a lawyer, but it's meant for criticism, parody, and not for misrepresentation. That's kind of a different story. But yet again, I'm not a lawyer. So, and then when you're tired of Jehovah's Witness apostasy, I would highly recommend some Mormon apostasy, just to even it out. Or if you're a new beginner and you feel afraid of talking to apostates, try some Mormon apostasy. This is my favorite Mormon apostate. Her channel is called My Spiritual Life, and it's important to remember the reason why she is a Mormon apostate is because her parents were Mormon. And the reason why I am a Jehovah's Witness apostate is because my parents were Jehovah's Witnesses. It kind of run in the family. So if my parents would have been Mormons, I would have been a Mormon apostate. And if my parents would have been evangelicals, I would have been an evangelical apostle. So I guess I was lucky. And another one, there's an ex-Mooney called Stephen Hassan. You could check out his channel. He's talking about the BITE model, behavior control, information control, thought control, and emotion control. It's basically the algorithm that runs all cults, including Jehovah's Witnesses. So, and then, last but not least, XJW comedians. And basically all ex-Jehovah's Witnesses are self-proclaimed comedians, myself included. If I would recommend a channel, I would recommend Bite Your Bum Hard. They are funny. And as an apostate, we're supposed to seek glory for ourselves, so I'm going to do that now. My favorite, my most popular comic video was when I explained the overlapping generation using my goats. So if you've seen it already, you can cut off this video here and go and do something else. But if you've never seen it, just keep watching. So this is fun. Apostasy is fun. I hope to see it at a protest, but there's a long way to that. And but I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope you are among my 144,000 subscribers. Please hit the new light notification bell and you will be notified every time Jehovah changes his mind. So, see you in paradise. Howdy heretics! Today we're going to talk about the overlapping generation and explain it like Jesus would, using goats as an example. Because Jehovah's Witnesses used to believe that the generation that saw 1874 should not disappear before the Armageddon. But then they changed it, so the generation that saw 1914 should not disappear before Armageddon. And 1914, that's a long time ago, so they came up with new light and a new definition of what constitutes a generation. So I will explain this for you using goats. This goat was born in 2016. So she saw the event that took place in 2016. So she's the generation that saw 2016. And this goat was born in 2019. So she was the generation that saw 2019. But now they are contemporary. So now this generation and that generation is the same generation. So now when she left, we still have the generation that saw 2016. 2016, 2020. So one generation. So this goat was born in 2017, and she saw the event that took place in 2017. So she is the generation that saw 2017. And this goat was born in 2019. And they are contemporaries. So, since they are contemporaries, they are the same generation. 2 generation, 1 generation, 2 generation, 1 generation.
It doesn't make any sense.
Well, it makes sense. It's maybe you have the wrong attitude. 1 generation, 2 generation, 3 generation, like this. It's over, and then you can use. Look, you can have 3 overlapping. Then it makes more sense. No? Vivian, you have an attitude problem. So, look. So now, this is 1 generation that's overlapping. And that means this goat that was born 1 month ago is a part of the generation that was born 5 years ago. Of course it makes sense. It's in the Bible. This is what Jesus meant. 1 generation plus 1 generation equals 1 generation. If you don't understand this, there's something wrong with you. Maybe you're a worldly person, maybe you're a mentally diseased apostate, or maybe you are under the influence of masturbation. I know you are. The generation that saw 1914 is pretty old now. So we come up with a new definition of generation. And basically, we believe that generation means contemporary, evidently. Because when Jesus chose to use the word generation, according to Webster's dictionary, he meant contemporary. 1 generation plus 1 generation equals 1 generation. This goat is born in 2016. So she is part of the generation that saw 2016. And this goat is born in 2020. So she's the generation that saw 2020. But now, since they are contemporary or overlapping, she is a part of the generation that saw 2016. It does make sense. Maybe there's something wrong with you. 1 generation plus 1 generation equals 1 generation. If you don't understand this, I cannot help you. 3 generation, 1 generation, 3 generation, 1 generation. Jehovah's Witnesses believe the generation that saw 1914 should not disappear before Armageddon, and it's disappearing. Literally. Come on. Come on. Come to the camera. Because we have to come up with a new definition of generation because it's so old. So we believe now in the overlapping generation. Because that's evidently what Jesus meant. Look here. 1 generation plus 1 generation equals 1 generation. If you don't understand this, ask yourself, maybe there's something wrong with you. Maybe you have a goat-like personality. Maybe it's pride. Are you a homosexual? Are you a homosexual? Repeat after me. 1 plus 1 equals 1. That's what Jesus meant. Evidently. They are contemporary. the same generation, mother and child. And this means that this goat saw the event that took place in 2016.
It doesn't make any sense.
Of course it makes sense. If Jesus wanted to use the word generation to mean contemporary, that's what he did. Ask yourself, why don't you understand this? Is it because you're proud, stubborn, or you want to sin? 3 generation, 1 generation. 3 generation, 1 generation. 3 generation, 1 generation. So? No! It's a loving arrangement. Look here. 1 generation plus 1 generation equals 1 generation. Repeat after me. 1 plus 1 is 1. That's what Jesus meant, evidently. I don't know, but I've been told. I don't know, but I've been told. Generations getting old. Generations getting old. If you don't understand the overlapping generation, I can't help you. But ask yourself, why don't you understand? Is it pride? Is it greed? Are you selfish? Do you want to sin? Are you a homosexual? Maybe that's why you refuse to understand this. But don't worry. Jehovah's Witnesses used to believe that the generation that saw 1874 should not disappear, and now it's the generation that saw 1914 that should not disappear. I personally believe that we soon will receive new light, that the generation that saw 1976 will not disappear. So, hope you like this video, hope you like this explanation, and be sure to hit the new light notification bell, and you will be notified by YouTube every time Jehovah change his mind. So, see you in paradise.
Okay. And now the end is near. Again. Do you mind just sticking to the script?